Hello and welcome to Average Joe Sports Husky Preview Edition. Yeah, I know it's a little bit late, but technology and me being busy doing lots and lots of theater. Speaking of that, quick shout out to Sound Theater Company. We're actually doing a show called The Wild Party by Andrew Lippa, not the other one. This one's a little bit more racy. We just did a 4-week run here in Seattle. We just finished that run, and then in couple weeks here on I believe we go the 12th through the 15th. We're doing another run of it on Bainbridge Island at the Bainbridge Performing Arts Theater. So if you guys want to come check that out, feel free. I'm in it. It's going to be a good time. But that's enough about my theater life. Let's talk about some sports. As we all know, actually yesterday was in fact the opening night of college football. I love it. You love it. We all love it. The tailgating, the barbecues, the drinking beer for those of us who are 21 and over. You know what I'm saying? And most importantly, college football marching bands and your entire Saturday being monopolized by one event because there's so many games. 119 Division I teams are playing all this weekend, and it's going to be wonderful. So let's just get down to it. We're going to start with the Dogs. We play Boise State this weekend on Saturday, and in our brand new renovated stadium. It's going to be very, very important. Let's do a quick season review of last season. Dogs last year went 7-6, 5-4 in Pac-12 play. They actually wound up having some pretty key wins this year. Or that year, not this year, but you know what I'm saying. Last season, they beat Stanford at home, 17-13. That was one of the grittiest games on the face of the planet. You know, sometimes you just gotta win dirty, and the Dogs actually got it done at the Clink. Ironically, they were undefeated at home, so that was pretty cool. Their other win was also against the BCS top 10 ranked team at the time. It was Oregon State. They won 20-17. Again, another close game. Keith Price didn't necessarily have his best game, but, he did just enough to get it done in the long run. On the flip side, Dogs still having troubles on the road. Big, huge loss to Arizona, a team that just wasn't that great of a team to begin with at the beginning of the season, and they weren't necessarily supposed to be doing anything very well last season. They lost big, 52-17. They just came out flat and they weren't prepared. Then there was the 18-point disaster that I like to call Apple Cup. We lost 31-28 in overtime. I'm saying we like I play on the team. I don't. I just play in the band and, wave my hands around like an idiot. But I wasn't actually at that game. So, lost in overtime. A lot can be said. A lot of people want to put the solace of the blame on Keith Price. And yeah, I can agree with you, but at the same time, I do have to disagree with you because as a defense, you give up 18 points. That's on the defense. Keith Price has nothing to do with what goes on the defensive side of the ball. That's just plain and simple. Did he have a couple key interceptions? Yes. Did he fumble the ball in the first play? No, I'm sorry, did he throw an interception in the first play of overtime? Yes, he did. I will give you that, and he definitely ended the game on a sour note. But that loss wasn't necessarily his fault. That was on the entire team versus just on one person. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are Keith Price haters, and I get it. He hasn't really shown anything, but we're going to get into that here later on in the season in rewind here. And then they lost their bowl game against their opponent, ironically, on Saturday, Boise State in the Las Vegas Bowl, 26-28. Was the final score, and that I just think the Dogs just didn't have enough time. Well, they sat around licking their wounds too long, and they were so paranoid about trying to hold a lead that they forgot that sometimes good teams just stomp on the necks of their opponents and just go to town. That's just plain and simple. On to some key stats from last season. Just a quick comparison with Keith Price. I want to say that this was definitely last season was a sophomore slump. His stats were 263 completions for 2,728 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. It kind of fails a little bit in comparison to last season with 242 completions for 3,063 yards, 33 touchdowns, and only 11 interceptions. There's one constant on this thing that I want people to take note of, and that constant is he has not in both of the seasons, not combined, because combined he has 24 total interceptions in his career, but in both those seasons, he hasn't crossed over into the 20 interception zone at all. So he's been pretty consistent. Yes, his first season, people didn't know what Keith Price was capable of doing in his first season starting in 2011. 2012 showed that, teams did in fact pay attention to a lot of film. And also they figured out what his strengths and his weaknesses were. And also he got dinged up a lot last season. Offensive line wasn't exactly the greatest on the face of the planet either. Also, he was made to throw more. I don't have how many attempts. I just didn't put him on there. But he definitely threw more last season than he did in his rookie year, or his first season starting, not necessarily his rookie year. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. That I know people are saying, "Hey, Keith Price sucks." Well, there's still a lot out there to be said about whether or not Keith Price sucks. However, I will go so far as to say he had a really, really tough season last year. And hopefully with this new hybrid, no-huddle, Oregon-esque type offense, maybe that'll play more to his strengths than necessarily having him stay in the pocket. The number one important thing for Keith Price this season is to stay healthy, plain and simple. Also, coming back this year, though he's suspended for this weekend's game due to his DUI bust earlier in the summer, is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Last season, he actually had an incredible season. He was one of Keith Price's star receivers. And a good receiving tight end is really hard to find, plain and simple, and it's a quarterback's best friend. But he came in with 69 receptions, great number to have. 69, always a good number. For 852 yards and 7 touchdowns. Not only is he also suspended, but also he broke his pinky during practices as well. But he was set to have a full recovery on that. And then Coach Sark wisely saying, "Hey, you're going to have to sit this game out because the punishment has to fit the crime." And fans, I know, I hear you. We want to put as many players out there that we can to win the game. You play to win the game. Hello? But at the same time, not only when you break team rules, but also when you break the law, you got to pay the piper. And the piper was supposed to be a year in jail. Now, granted, when you got a good lawyer, and also when you have a relatively clean record, you can kind of skate past that part, because again, DUIs aren't anything to laugh about. It's definitely something that you should take serious. I do feel that this suspension is good enough. It's a big game. It's not like we're playing Idaho State like we are next week. So the suspension definitely sets a tone for the rest of the team that, hey, any single one of you can be suspended, and single one of you is a part of this chain, and we're only strong as our weakest link. So this sets an example for random backup guy number 4 who plays on the scout team and breaks team rules, and all of a sudden his suspension is really, really harsh. Because, if they had just let Austin Seferian-Jenkins go and somebody else gets popped for DUI and they get suspended, he has beef to go, hey, whoa, time out. You let ASJ off, with absolutely nothing. You made him run 200 yards of bear crawls on a Sunday morning until he puked, but I get suspended and potentially kicked off the team for breaking team rules. I'm sorry, bupkis. So big ups to Sark on that and putting the hammer down, and big ups to the university for taking something serious and focusing on the student part of student athletics, holding people responsible. A coach, when they recruit players, they come in and they promise their parents that when they come into their program, they're coming in as boys, and when they leave, they're coming out as men. And you have to have boys grow up into men, you have to show them that they have to learn from their mistakes. And ASJ's been nothing but, humbled by the situation. And I think he's going to turn out just fine in the long run. It's just the suspension had to happen. On to receivers. I'm sorry, not on to receivers. On to running backs. We got Bishop Sankey coming back. Last season he had 1,439 yards and 16 touchdowns. He's also got a case of the fumbles. That's a huge problem as well. And again, he's still young, and he's still got all that explosive speed. And he's gonna be a beast, especially coming off the edge on runs as well. He's just got to be able to keep the ball in his hands. I think he had 2 fumbles in the Vegas Bowl, and so he's just got to keep the ball in his hands. That's really a whole lot all I can say about that. That's the one glaring thing that I see when I look at Bishop Sankey play. Also, Casey Williams, 77 receptions, 878 yards, 6 touchdowns. And oh, by the way, if you're wondering why I'm looking up, it's because I'm doing this from 2 different computers. Sorry, but yes, again, he's gonna be his Keith Price's number 1 and number 2 receiver, because if Austin Seferian Jenkins isn't open, Casey Williams is going to be open. They can't double team everybody. They can only, put 11 people on the field. So that has to happen. Overall, my expectation is this. I want 9 wins. Plain and simple. We beat Arizona and WSU. We finish 9 and 4. Finish 9 and 4. Plain and simple. And that probably would have been good enough to get us to a bigger bowl game. But again, we would have had 9 wins. This is our 3rd season with a 7-6 record. And yes, it's above 500. It makes us bowl eligible. But now we've hit the point where we're applauding mediocrity. And that's kind of where I draw the line. Again, bowl games are important. Again, when you come from 0-12 and go from that to a Holiday Bowl to an Alamo Bowl, which was very, very high scoring, and both defensive coordinators got fired, and into Vegas, that's a great turnaround. But I need to see more as a fan, plain and simple. I want 9 wins, and I do feel that those 9 wins are capable. Apple Cup is gonna be one of those key games, obviously, because you want to beat your rival, especially if you want to bring the Apple Cup back home to where it belongs, in Seattle. And we're playing at home in our new stadium, and hopefully we learn from last year and we just stomp their faces in. But again, I'll save the smack talk for Apple Cup time. I always promise myself that I'm going to do that, so I'm going to do that for right now. Another game that's going to be a 50-50 toss-up is actually this game on Saturday against Boise State. Boise State is not a pushover team. Boise State kills it in the month of August. And again, it's a team that always has to be taken seriously, plain and simple. I know they're a small team, but at the same time, they're a team that has to be reckoned with. If you don't believe me, ask all the teams, big surprise teams that they've beaten. Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Oregon, that when they started becoming big title contenders. So ask them if you don't believe me. This is another 50-50 toss-up, again, as I said before. And I do think the number 3 toss-up game, and also we need to learn how to win on the road more than just beat Colorado, because we beat Colorado on the road the week before Apple Cup. But we got to start winning games on the road, which means Oregon State, I feel, is that other 3rd big game that I think we need to get under our belt. We as in the Huskies, have not beaten Oregon State since last, I believe it was 2003. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if I am. So that was back when I was in band, and we did the Hooked on Classics medley for halftime. I remember that was my first year. That was a long time ago. Anyway, makes me feel old. But I think if we win those 3 games, you know what? I feel that 9-3 is a capable record. I could go so high as to say we could probably get 10 games if we can surprise a few people here. So, we got 3. We got Boise State this week. We've got not Iowa State, but Idaho State the following week. That's our FCS team that we get to count on the schedule. And we have at Illinois second week, and then Idaho State the following week. So if we can get 2 out of 3 going into Pac-12 play, that's great. So I'm looking forward to that. Just to do a quick kind of synopsis on Boise State University. Last season they went 11-2. In their last season in the Mountain West Conference, they went 7-1. This year is going to be a big year for them as well. This is a huge opener. This is their first season as an automatic qualifying school. This is a big, big, big deal for them. So this game is super important. So they're moving to the ACC. In case I didn't mention which conference they're going to. Moving to the ACC this season. Their key players: Joe Southwick, quarterback, huge arm, 2,730 yards, 19 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. They also had a pretty big ground game last season as well, and they were able to control the ball and control a lot of clock. Normally, Boise State is a team that likes to blow out opponents, but they kind of learned that you can't blow out everybody. You got to win close games and win ugly as well. And again, he's very, very consistent. Only 7 interceptions last season, and that's gonna be key. A key thing for the defense to key in on. They're gonna have to get in his face, sack him, make him feel really, really uncomfortable. They've also their running backs, the main running backs. They've got Jay Ajay, and I think I had a problem pronouncing his name last year for the Vegas Bowl. He had 548 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. They also got another guy, Nick Fields, 135 yards, but he didn't get any touchdowns, but still, a relatively sizable force. Again, sometimes you got to have a strong number 2. They've got receivers coming in, Geraldo Baldwin, spelled Bolwjin, and he's from Amsterdam. Ironically, he had 18 receptions, 197 yards, and 2 touchdowns, followed by Aaron, I believe it's Burks. It could be Brooks. I could be wrong. It wouldn't be Brooks. Anyway, 17 receptions, 319 yards, and he had 1 touchdown last year. Then followed by Matt Miller, 66 receptions, 769 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's the big dog, but it also shows that Southwick likes to sling the ball around to just about everybody, which makes him equally dangerous. The Husky secondary is going to have to work real, real hard because, again, can't double team everybody. So they're going to get their yards in the air. They've just got to limit them to a whole lot, to a whole lot less, basically. Ultimately, my prediction here is I'm going to say it's going to be a close Husky victory, no more than 14 points. It's probably going to be more like 3 to 7 points. But this is another game that can go either way. It's a 50-50 toss-up. So yeah, that's my long-ish Husky preview. Sorry, I'm a little out of the game. Haven't vlogged in a while, so this one's a little long. But I promise I'll get better over the course of the season. So I'm just going to leave it there. Go Dogs. Let's get it done. I'm off to go get me some sushi with my lady. Peace out, y'all.